Hello there everybody, my name is Derailious, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over everything included in the Bartender's Brewery update. However, it doesn't just include buffs and improvements, it also includes some nerfs to God Pots. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you guys for all the support recently as we are excruciatingly close to 15k, and if you are new here, please make sure you like and subscribe, as that really does help out the channel. On that note though, let's get right into the video. Starting off with one of the biggest changes for a lot of people, we're going to be discussing the God Pot nerfs and changes. Essentially, the God Pot has had its price slashed in the community shop from 2,000 bits to 1,500 bits per God Pot. In addition, its duration has also been slashed in half, from 24 hours to 12 hours. But you can gain another 12 hours with your God Pot if you are Alchemy 50, and depending on your Alchemy level, you will get a certain number of hours extra. I am currently Alchemy 33, by no means am I a god at Alchemy, and therefore, I only get an extra 7 hours with my God Pot. Generally, I think this change is not that great, but okay. I think over time, people will realize that this isn't really as much of a nerf as people, originally thought it was going to be. The price of Legacy God Pots, which are the ones that were purchased before this update, have shot up to like 2.9 mil. In reality, I think that's an overreaction, and I think that God Pot prices will probably be around where they were pre-update, so although 30 may have had an influence on this, I don't really think he got the change that he wanted either. Aside from the God Pot stuff, which is very likely to cause a firestorm in my comment section, we can get into the main part of the update, the Bartender's Brewery itself. Speaking to the bartender, he has 4 new items for your use. Mix-ins, 3 items that can only be unlocked upon hitting a Slayer tier 8 in any of the 3 Slayers, which allow you to provide a buff that can be added to God Pots in a brewing stand. These buffs last for the entire duration of the God Pot and are really strong, but they have a pretty hefty price tag of about 127,000 coins per piece. These buffs, in order, are 7 Magic Find when slaying monsters in one hit, 10 Ferocity, and 5% dodge chance. I can imagine these are definitely going to be used to improve God Pots and make them way stronger than they were previously able to, and I'm really happy about that since I discussed them adding something similar to this about a month ago in one of my videos. As well as this, Revenant Minions Tier 12 have been added to the game, and they require Revenant Minion Tier 11, 64 Revenant Viscera, and 2 million coins. I think that this is, once again, an excellent change. I don't know if we're going to be receiving Revenant Minions of the other 2 Slayers, but it's entirely likely that when their Tier 5s come out, so will their Tier 12 Minions. Now, onto the boss. Heading down to Maddox the Slayer, you could speak to him about Revenant Horror Tier 5, which has 10 million health, does 6,000 DPS, and has 3 perks: Redemption, Explosive Assault, and Thermonuclear. Redemption, probably one of the most annoying perks, is the fact that the boss heals very rapidly. And what I mean by that is, it could be at 1 million health, have a regeneration, and go all the way up to 4 million again. This boss heals incredibly quick, so you should be focusing on dealing high damage in a short amount of time. Explosive Assault basically means that the boss throws explosive TNT, go figure. This explosive TNT isn't super deadly to players in high gear armor, but I would make the argument that avoiding it is very important. And in terms of things you absolutely should avoid, Thermonuclear, an attack which charges up and releases a massive explosion, is definitely one to be avoided. The ground will turn to basically void and bedrock, and the boss will summon a bunch of lightning all around it. If you are caught within the thermonuclear explosion, you are very likely going to die, and if you don't, you're going to be on only 1 health, and the boss will be close to you, so good luck surviving that. The reward for this boss is 1,500 Zombie Slayer XP, plus other boss drops, and the cost to start it is 95,000 coins, which is quite expensive. And if you don't have the 5% Slayer XP, or rather Slayer boss cost reduction that you got from the Bartender's Brewery, you are going to be paying 100,000 coins per boss you summon, which is really insane and makes me think that Aatrox should be around a little more often. Going into the Slayer recipes, there's quite a few things here that have been changed, notably the Wand of Atonement and the Reaper set. The Reaper set is really amazing as it gives you 25 strength per piece, which is really strong to begin with, and a bunch of health, defense, and intelligence. The full set bonus, Enrage, allows you to enrage for 6 seconds, gaining 100 speed, 100 damage, and 100 strength with a cooldown of 25 total seconds. This does not require the Reaper Mask, by the way. As well, you get the full set bonus of Trolling the Reaper, which allows you to heal 50% more with healing wands, you gain 100 defense against zombies, you deal 200% damage to zombies, but only 1% damage to all other mobs. And since this is an upgraded set of the Revenant armor, you also get Zombie Bulwark, which I don't really have to explain, you just kill zombies and you accumulate defense against them. The recipes for these items are relatively expensive, requiring 2 stacks of Revenant Viscera and 6 diamond blocks for the leggings, same for the chestplate, and for the boots. So these are relatively expensive pieces of armor. The full set right now runs you about 22 mil, although that's likely going to drop in the coming days and weeks. The Wand of Atonement, basically just an improved Wand of Restoration, costs 1 stack of Revenant Viscera and 1 stack of Enchanted Dark Oak Wood. In terms of Zombie Slayer Tier 8, there are 3 rewards to talk about. First off, an accessory, the Reaper Orb. This gains you a stack of 2 strength for every mob killed in the last 5 seconds. A really strong overall buff, but it costs 8 Scythe Blades, so make sure you start grinding those out. The Axe that is Shredded has 140 damage, 115 strength, it heals you 50 hearts per hit, it allows you to deal 250% damage to zombies, and you receive 25% less damage from zombies when held. The item ability Throw allows you to throw the axe and damage all enemies in its path, dealing 10% melee damage. But consecutive throws stacked for double damage, but cost double the mana. The base mana cost for this item is 20. The cost of the Axe of the Shredded is the Reaper Falchion, 4 shards of the Shredded, and 4 stacks of Revenant Viscera. The final item on our list, the Warden Helmet, has 300 HP, 100 defense, and the item ability Brute Force, which halves your speed but grants you 10% base weapon damage for every 25 speed you have. This costs 2 stacks of enchanted iron blocks, 2 revived hearts, which cost all this, and this, and the Warden Heart, which is the drop of the Warden mob, which is basically just the Atoned Horror. In terms of what I recommend you do for this boss, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. Honestly, I think this is one of the hardest bosses released, and although some people are able to one-tap it, that's obviously not just the average player. I really believe that if your armor is really solid and you're running with something really powerful like a Baby Yeti pet, you will likely be fine. I was able to complete it a couple times with 3/4 superior and a tarantula helmet, although I did die a couple times as well. If you want a 100% guaranteed win rate, I really recommend getting something like Full Necron, or even better, Reaper Armor, as that definitely increases your ability to survive and deal damage to the boss. On top of this, Reaper Falchions are incredibly powerful against the boss, and the axe is likely even better, so all of those items should be taken into account. So in terms of strategies when it comes to fighting the boss, the first one I think that is very important is that you should actually rely on the melee hits from the boss to save you from other attacks. Although that sounds a little wild, let me tell you what I mean. Essentially, whenever the boss hits you, he does a pretty high amount of KB to you, and you might be thinking, well, KB's bad, why would I want that to happen to me? Well, in reality, if you get KB'd away from the boss, you're also going to be KB'd away from the TNT attack, and that attack is far more deadly than the boss's melee ever could be. So, intentionally letting yourself get hit by the boss and smacked around while you smack it is a great overall option. You should be able to do more damage to the boss than it's able to do to you. And on top of this, as the TNT throw gets worse and worse, this effect only becomes better and better. You should be actively trying to get hit from the boss in the last third of the fight, unless you're able to end it incredibly quickly. As well as this, I recommend that you keep track of all your cooldowns and make sure all of them are happening at a proper time. If you have an Enrage, use it. If you have spare mana, use the throw of your Flower of Truth. If you have, I don't know, say a bunch of extra mana, you should try to get away from the boss for a moment to heal up if you're low. So on and so forth. You have to actively be thinking during this fight. This isn't something that you could just summon and then hit twice and then it's dead. It's something you have to actually think about and strategize about. In terms of strategy for the thermonuclear attack, I honestly think you should go in for a few hits, but don't get too greedy. If you do, the attack will fire and you will pretty much instantly die. So, when you start seeing the boss go for thermonuclear, try to run at him and get a couple hits on him, and then run away as fast as you can. Using the aspect of the end is excellent here, as you're able to just fly away from the boss, but in reality, if you don't have enough time to do so, just walking backwards for a second will actively allow you to avoid it. Finally, I think that you should try to summon the boss on flat ground. as on flat ground you are able to keep track of all his abilities way easier. And due to how many objects we're able to clip into in Skyblock, not clipping into objects definitely means that you'll be able to avoid the TNT throw attack much easier. The amount of times that I've died to this fight because I got clipped on a fence or a wall is more than one, which is pretty bad honestly. So make sure that you summon the boss in a relatively flat location. Overall though, this is really one of the greater updates that I've seen recently, and the fact that it happens in the same week as the Spider's Den rework is really amazing to me. I'm happy overall with everything shown off in this update. Feels pretty strong, feels pretty great. There are some other items and things that are included in this update that I'll get into in another day, probably tomorrow's video, but overall, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you all in the next one. Please make sure you like and subscribe down below, and on that note, peace out everybody.